This module explores the cost savings pillar of the Cloud Value Framework. As you learned in the Introduction to Business Value module, cloud economics Welcome to Module 1, Cloud Economics. Cloud economics focuses on two areas that are very different from each other, but also have much in common: business value and cloud financial management. The cloud financial management is the other part of cloud economics. This area focuses on helping AWS customers be successful in financially managing their cloud infrastructure. Cloud financial management helps customers develop the skills and tools necessary to realize the full economic benefit of the cloud through their AWS journey, from planning a migration or building a new app to running their business on the cloud at full scale. Cloud financial management is an important piece of the conversations with customers during the pre-sales phase, throughout the migration process, and after the migration. There are cost savings analyses that can be done as part of the migration portfolio assessment early in the process, as well. How do having these economic-based conversations with customers accelerate decision-making and enable customers to move to AWS? Cloud economics helps to build the business case for AWS by looking at on-premises environments. The value this conversation brings to customers is not just an Excel workbook of numbers, it's the confidence of their buying decision. We've seen that when cloud economics is involved in competitive sales opportunities, we are twice as likely to win those deals. With business value analyses, we help our customers migrate to the cloud quicker and with more confidence. We see that when a business case is completed, customer usage grows 5 times faster than when a business case is not completed. That shows us that a business case really is about understanding what matters to a customer, how to measure and baseline those objectives, and identifying the right applications and infrastructure to move to the cloud. This allows us to remove any economic uncertainty in the buying decision and ultimately decreasing the duration of the sales cycle. In this section, you will learn more about the business value aspect of cloud economics. Later in the course, you will explore cloud financial management. The business value conversation and analysis helps you address the financial components that are typically top concerns for potential customers. Yet, neither the conversation nor the analysis delivers full value to your customer. The value is delivered via activities like proofs of concept, architectural reviews, migration of workloads, and so forth. The business value analysis facilitates progressing to those later activities. Therefore, business value engagement should be as quick and efficient as possible, so you can move on to other important conversations. If your customer is already convinced that AWS is the right way to go, great. Move on to proof of concept. If you talk your customer into moving forward with AWS by providing them with relevant AWS case studies and other data points, also great. You do not need to conduct any further analysis. If you get to a point where you need to conduct an analysis, remember, the purpose is not to get to the bottom of the numbers or provide a highly accurate forecast. Rather, you want to get to the point where the customer says, "This is good enough." Customers realize this at various stages during the analysis, and once they reach this point, you conclude your effort. You then transaction your customer to a proof of concept so they can start realizing actual value. Overall, your job in a business value engagement is to remove the financial issues off the top, and once that's done, a business value analysis is no longer needed. The Cloud Value Framework is composed of 4 pillars: cost savings, staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility. Typically, customers focus on cost savings as a primary driver for cloud migration. While cost is important, the 3 other pillars of the framework should also be emphasized in your business value customer conversations. For successful conversations, you need a good foundation in all 4 pillars. You may be familiar with total cost of ownership, or TCO. At AWS, we refer to it as cost savings, and it represents the financial benefits of moving to the cloud. Cost savings is typically the most common focus for customers because it involves concrete numbers. Once you acquire current cost numbers from a customer, which can sometimes be difficult to get, you apply logic to them. Then you show your customer how much they are paying currently versus what they would pay using AWS. These numbers are solid and difficult to challenge. Customers feel confident showing the cost comparisons to their leadership. And then migration to AWS simply becomes a matter of how quickly they can begin. While the typical focus is on cost savings, the other 3 pillars also offer compelling benefits. The true value of deploying to the cloud increases dramatically when you look at staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility. These 3 pillars are less concrete and require more negotiation with customers to agree on the impact. But once you reach an agreement, the total impact of the 3 pillars often results in a much larger savings than the cost savings pillar. Think of it this way. Cost savings, by itself, is the equivalent of changing an inefficient lamp to a highly efficient LED lamp. By making this change, your customer will still get light and save a bit of money. But that change alone won't have a large. To recap, cloud economics deals with Cloud economics deals with business value and cloud financial management. In this module, you learned about business value and that it's more than demonstrating cost savings. The cloud value framework can be used to demonstrate business value by highlighting the 4 pillars: cost savings, staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility. In the next 4 modules, you will learn more about each pillar. This will help you gain the knowledge you need to engage with your customers around business value. Remember, AWS supports your conversations by offering tools, analysis, training, and more. We will go into detail about cloud financial management in the Cloud Financial Management module later in this course. Thank you for completing this module. Please continue to the next module below. This module explores the cost savings pillar of the Cloud Value Framework. As you learned in the Introduction to Business Value module, cloud economics focuses on both business value and cloud financial management. This module continues the business value discussion. Business value refers to the pre-sales discussion you have with your customers to help them understand the value of AWS, including how it will improve their business performance and their customers' experience. Previously, you learned that the Cloud Value Framework illustrates how AWS business values fall into 4 pillars: cost savings, staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility. This module focuses on the first pillar, cost savings. In the Cloud Value Framework, Cost savings refers to how much money your customers pay for their traditional IT compared to how much they would pay using AWS in actual numbers. As a partner, you need to understand cost savings and how to effectively discuss cost savings with your customers, so they can see how AWS can help them reduce costs and increase productivity. A primary tool for communicating cost savings to your customer is a cost savings analysis. In this section, you will learn about cost savings analysis. You use a cost savings analysis when you want to help a customer compare costs and build a business case for transitioning to AWS. A cost savings analysis calculates the total cost of ownership, acquisition and operating cost, for running an end-to-end traditional IT environment on premises versus deploying to AWS. You can use an end-to-end cost savings analysis when your customer moves from a traditional IT setup to AWS Cloud, or when your customer wants to understand the costs involved with running applications or workloads over owned IT hardware versus AWS. Often, the biggest challenge for customers is understanding the true scope of their current costs. In a cost savings analysis, you create a complete view of the cost to deliver equal or improved performance with AWS when compared to an on-premises or co-location infrastructure. Your first challenge is to identify the true end-to-end cost of your customer's traditional infrastructure. Typically, most customers conduct their own analysis before they meet with an AWS partner. However, when you talk to your customers, you might find that their analysis misses impactful cost factors. This means that their analysis might not be comprehensive. Most customers find it challenging to collect all the data needed for a true end-to-end analysis. Therefore, customers might decide to not review all the data because it is too complicated. As a partner, you need to understand that equal or improved performance does not mean the same volume of on-premises resources. A typical on-premises data center requires fewer cores on AWS because there is no need to provision for peak, backup, clustering, or future uses, such as research. The typical AWS deployment requires 60 to 80% of the number of cores that the customer currently has on premises, and sometimes even less. In this section, you will learn how customers can lower costs with AWS. AWS helps your customers lower their costs through the use of a consumption-based model, AWS pricing models, and frequent price reductions. In this section, you will learn about the consumption-based model. With a consumption-based model, AWS customers pay only for what they use rather than pay up front for what they think they will need in the future. Imagine a customer who wants to launch a new application. With traditional infrastructure, the customer starts by planning and scoping the architecture, and then identifies the servers needed to run the application. Next, the customer creates a purchase order, or PO, and sends it to the appropriate person or department in the corporation. At this point, the customer plays the waiting game. As most of us know, PO processing and approval can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. While waiting for the purchase order approval, the customer prepares the data center by ensuring there is enough floor space, power, cooling, and other supporting back-end infrastructure, such as a new dark fiber between redundant locations. What do you think commonly happens during this waiting period? Requirements change and the hardware order no longer seems to be the best fit, or the customer might figure out that their order either over-provisions or under-provisions. When a customer over-provisions, they order more servers than they need, and they end up with unused resources. When a customer under-provisions, they order too few servers and fail to deliver on their service level agreements or SLAs. In both cases, the trade-off is inefficiency and financial loss. AWS helps your customers avoid inefficiencies and financial losses by enabling your customers to launch the infrastructure they need when they need it. With this model, over-provisioning and under-provisioning are no longer issues. Your customers align their infrastructure, services, and costs to usage patterns. In this section, you will learn about AWS pricing models. AWS pricing models offer a second way AWS can help your customers lower costs. Your customers can buy from traditional vendors using various payment plans, yet in the end, they are stuck with the same set of servers until their next refresh. With AWS, your customers can optimize their expenditure by matching the usage model to the requirements of workloads by maturity and behavior. By maturity, we mean, does the customer have enough data to determine a usage baseline so they can use a reserved instance? When we say behavior, we mean, is data usage too spiky for reserved instances? Will spot instances work better? Typically, customers start with on-demand instances to gauge their needs, and then switch to reserved instances, or RIs, once they know their demand baseline. Reserved instances can reduce costs by up to 75% versus on-demand. AWS excess capacity sold for a deep discount is called spot instance. Spot instances can reduce costs even further. You will learn more about reserved and spot instances later in the course. Finally, for customers with regulatory or software licensing constraints who need their own hosts, AWS provides dedicated hosts. In this section, you will learn about price reductions. A third way AWS lowers costs is by continually reducing prices. AWS operates on a massive scale, allowing us to increase efficiencies and reduce costs. We then pass the savings on to our customers through price reductions. Every time we reduce our prices, all AWS customers experience the savings immediately. When price reductions occur, customers automatically receive the lower prices. They never need to call us, contact an account manager, renegotiate a contract, or ask for the price reduction. For instance, when AWS reduced the price of Amazon Simple Storage Service Glacier, or Amazon S3 Glacier, by 30%, all S3 Glacier customers immediately started paying 30% less that month. This allowed our customers to use the savings to pursue new projects. Likewise, when AWS reduced the price of Amazon Elastic Block Store, or EBS, snapshots by 47%, customers saw a similar immediate impact. One exception to price reductions is reserved instances. RIs are already heavily discounted, with prices accounting for forecasted future discounts. With planning, your customers can benefit from both worlds, which you'll learn more about later. Now, consider how the AWS consumption-based model, pricing models, and frequent price reductions work together. An independent research study by IDC found that AWS has a significant positive impact on customers' IT. In addition, AWS customers also experience cost savings with lower operations costs and less time spent on new storage deployments. One of the best metrics is to look at the payback period for migrating to AWS, which stands at an average of 6 months. This means customers receive a return on investment, or ROI, of 200%. While a 6-month migration is the average, some best fit for cloud customers experience a shorter payback period, while other customers might need more time. For example, financial institutions tend to have legacy applications that require more time and investment to migrate. Their payback period is usually longer and might take up to 2 years. Yet, even with a longer time period, they experience an ROI of 50%. IDC also found that AWS positively impacts customer outcomes. While customer outcomes are not easy to evaluate as ROI, these statistics show improved IT and business agility, which are key AWS advantages. Lastly, AWS continuously delivers new tools and features. This translates to customer impacting outcomes. For AWS customers and their customers, positive customer impact is one of the most significant driving forces behind AWS migrations. This is the Amazon flywheel created by Jeff Bezos. It shows the Amazon business model of scale. It illustrates how the Amazon high-volume, low-margin business model works. As you can see, it's a positive feedback loop driven by price reductions. This is the AWS version of the Amazon flywheel. We offer lower prices, which means more customers will use AWS platforms. AWS then increases its infrastructure size, which improves our economies of scale. AWS can then lower infrastructure costs and lower prices for customers again, and this cycle continues. Another aspect of economies of scale is that AWS can offer services that a company might not be able to develop, support, or run in an efficient manner. These services might be relevant for only a limited number of customers, or they might not make sense for most customers to develop on their own. Yet with AWS scale, the services become inexpensive and easy to use. By using AWS, companies can focus more on innovation and less on infrastructure. For example, mobile application developers encounter enormous challenges in making code run on multiple phone models and OS versions. It is expensive and resource demanding to keep an up-to-date device portfolio for testing. AWS resolved this challenge for customers by developing the AWS Device Farm, an extensive range of simulators that removes the need to continually purchase test phones. Let's look at an example. Here is the basic cloud economics model. The essence of this model is efficiency, or matching costs to the usage curve. Looking at a simple example, a planning cycle typically starts with predicting demand to plan for capacity. Next, the customer purchases, deploys, and eventually uses and maintains their infrastructure. Owned infrastructure is usually provisioned to reflect peak usage, not actual usage, so it involves a significant capital investment. Basically, the customer has significant incremental increases depending on their purchase cycle. For example, the customer's purchase cycle could be every 6 months or every year. Yet, even the most comprehensive planning process might fail to predict actual demand, as shown here. For example, you might have a customer who thought a new app was going to be popular, so they provisioned more than they needed to be on the safe side. Or you might have a customer who did not forecast an increase in use of its platform, resulting in under-provisioning, which can then lead to the customer not delivering on their SLA. By not being able to deliver as promised, the company's quality of service could come into question, impacting the company's brand equity. By leveraging AWS, your customers can save by provisioning only the required infrastructure at any given time, even when demand is higher or lower than usual. In this section, you will learn about different migration challenges. Even with a compelling business case, your customers might face challenges in AWS cloud adoption. As a partner, you can prepare for common challenges so you can help customers overcome them. Cost is one of the biggest challenges customers face. The primary costs for a cloud deployment are sunk infrastructure costs and migration costs. Sunk infrastructure costs occur when customers want to retire hardware, but they have not fully depreciated it, and they have not had an opportunity to recover the non-depreciated value of their investments by selling it. Migration costs occur when a customer moves their existing footprint to the cloud and shuts down their data center, which requires time and effort. When evaluating the relationship between cost savings, sunk costs, and migration costs, you can use a formula like this. Cost savings divided by sunk costs plus migration costs equals return on investment, or ROI. In this section, you will learn about sunk costs. Sunk costs are typically easy to calculate. You can begin by asking the accounting department for non-depreciated assets for the hardware you are evaluating. When you talk with your customers, some will provide you with a large number for sunk costs. Therefore, you should always evaluate the sunk costs for 2 factors: depreciation and recovery value. Here's an example of a customer discussion about sunk costs.
When I spoke to my customer, they told me they had built a brand new data center with a sunk cost of $40 million. With $40 million in sunk cost, this bid would have been hard to fulfill or compete. So I asked them a few questions to try to determine the true sunk cost. When was the data center built?
The data center was built 4 years ago.
When you transition to AWS, how much longer will you use the data center?
1 year.
Okay, now tell me about your depreciation schedule.
20 years.
That means, with their depreciation schedule, by the time they complete their migration, the company will depreciate 25% of the value, or $10 million, out of that $40 million of sunk costs. Next, he wanted to learn about their data center recovery value.
Would you be able to sell the data center?
No, I don't believe so.
Not being able to sell the data center equates to no recovery value. Part of the $40 million the customer was talking about is the operational cost for keeping the data center running after they transition to AWS.
Could you give it to someone else for free and have this other company or companies pay the operational cost to use the data center going forward?
Yes, we could do that.
That's great. Would that company pay you 10% of the value of the data center?
Yes, that can be done.
How about 30% or even 50%?
We have someone willing to pay 55% of the depreciation value.
That 55% translated to $22 million out of the total $40 million. This changed the actual sunk cost to $18 million. So, by asking a few simple questions, we helped our customer realize their sunk cost was less than half what they originally estimated. In this section, you will learn about migration costs. Migration costs are typically a bit more challenging than sunk costs. Calculating migration costs typically require an in-depth analysis, and these costs can range between hundreds of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars per server in extreme cases. The Cloud Economics team conducts a customer analysis. The analysis is done remotely, often without all the information they need to conduct a full migration. This concludes the Cost Savings module. You have learned how to provide examples of cost savings, explain why cost savings matter, describe 3 main ways to lower costs when using AWS, identify migration challenges, and discuss best practices for working on cost savings analysis with your customers. Thank you for completing the Cost Savings Basics module.